you are starting a record label. So tell me about it.
Yes, we are insanely excited to be doing this right now. This is sort of what it's all been leading up to, what the juice of this thing is for me, what the excitement is for me these days. Me and Zane have always had a crazy harebrained schemes and ideas, but now we're kind of fully putting them to realization. And there's a lot that encompasses that right now, but it's really exciting. It's called Sunburnt Records. Um, Zane, why don't you take it?
Yeah, so it goes back to this summer. Jake and I were kind of sitting around, and he's like, "We should throw a show, like an end of summer show." I was like, "I'm down." And I had been doing shows under the name Surf and Turf Records for a few years, but not really taking it super serious. And so we put together this event in Ventura County, August 17th. We got all our buddies' bands. We hit up a bunch of you know, companies that we've worked with before, like SRH and Black Bear and, Regime Music Group and stuff like that. So we got all the sponsors, had all the bands, and then we spray painted some banners, set them up, got all the vintage clothing rolling. And, we thought the event would probably do like 250 tickets or something, especially given where we were doing it. And then we ended up selling it out at like 500 tickets, and we were throwing people on the guest list left and right. We ended up doing like 200 plus people on the guest list until the venue was like, you guys got to like shut this down. There's, too many folks in here, fire code issues. And it was a big success, and it was so much fun.
It was.
And Jake and I were like, well, shoot, we should keep doing more shows. And if we're going to do that, well, we should probably have a name to do it under. And at the same time, we were thinking, well, we should, uh, start putting out our own music and all of our buddies' bands and give them a platform to have a voice.
Yeah.
So, like, well, it sounds like we kind of need to start a record label,
Yeah.
And that's where Sunburnt originated from. Obviously, we have the background of Kevin Zinger being our mentor and hearing all of his stories of how he created this music scene in the 90s down in San Diego with SRH. And he was a successful club promoter. And every week he was selling out this club with all his favorite bands playing and, having the clothing company to back it. And it was really inspiring. And then Jake's background with Skunk Records, it just seemed to make sense to do our own version of both of those things and in the same DIY punk rock spirit of, Skunk and SRH. So that's the origin of Sunburnt Records.
Yeah, a lot of those bands that we had on that first show were our friends' bands, and we realized that there's kind of this cool, multi-genre thing that's happening right now in Southern California. There's lots of different groups that we like that have been inspired by so many different interesting niche scenes in the past, all the way from the '90s, early 2000s, and even more recent scenes within the last decade or so. And a lot of the bands that we work with, despite just being our friends, they're people that we really believe in their sounds, and we really want to see them get heard and get recognition. I'd spent so many years trying to make projects of my own happen, and I still am, of course. But getting to experience what I guess sort of like a big stage is like by doing stuff with Sublime and pulling Zano up to be our guitar tech and stuff like that, and seeing what that world is like. I realized that rather than just having those huge experiences for myself, I'd rather, utilize that to create those experiences for other people. Like Zane was saying, we expected there to be like maybe 100 or 200 people at the show altogether, but we had a sold out thing. And then seeing one of our opening bands just being like, dude, I'd never played for a crowd that big. Like, this was so cool. Like, so, that was the coolest show I ever did. And to us, it was like, we didn't even know if it was going to happen like that. Like, I guess, seeing the light come on in someone's eyes is a really important factor of this thing for us. And that's why it's been so much fun to do. That's our origins.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love it. And I think it's great. I think that there's a big kind of like, I love that it was DIY. I love that you guys did it yourself. I think that that is like, I think the local music, small venue, I don't think it was ever gone, but I think now it's more important than ever. Festivals are getting canceled left and right.
Oh,
People,
yeah.
people aren't making as much money, inflation, whatever. And like these small local shows are not only more convenient to get to, but it fosters this sense of community that I think is really important right now.
Yep.
And will forever be really important. And I think that's a really cool aspect because, like you said, these are just like your friends. These are people you would hang out with regardless, and you guys just happen to play music. And that's a really cool dynamic to have. And now, Jake, I think you have a lot more kind of influence and pull, and this is something that you can give that gift now.
Right. That is what I want to do.
Yeah,
100%.
I feel like we've always heard stories about Southern California and their music scenes that were born here. And over the years, like Jake and I, unfortunately, were born in a generation where we didn't really get to experience that. There was countless scenes and dating back to the 60s on Sunset Strip all the way to the 90s in San Diego and then the garage rock kind of surf rock revival in the 2010s in like LA, and all of those scenes have like fizzled out and done their thing. And I feel like they're so important for the culture of music, having a, a company that brings people together and creates a great big family of people, like-minded individuals creating music that everyone boosts each other up. And I feel like that's something that Jake and I just unfortunately missed out on due to timing and when we were
Yeah.
born. And it's like, well, fuck, if we can't find a scene like that, why don't we just create our own? Let's bring all of our friends' bands together. Let's put on all the companies that we love and let's put them under one roof. And then there's still kids out there from San Diego to Santa Barbara, all the way up to San Francisco that still want to go see good live music and have a great time and bond over the things they love. And it's like, well, it's time to just do it ourselves because no one else is.
That's a huge, important part of our cultural identity as California. We're kind of defined by our art and our entertainment, and especially our music. So I think all the bands that we like to work with have some element that we've identified in some era of the California music scene and on alternative music in general. So that's what makes it so exciting, man. We've been having a lot of fun putting it all together.
Yeah, no, and I think it's really iconic that you guys just took the initiative to kind of do it yourselves. That article that you wrote, Zane, for the Peer about, I know you did it under a pseudonym. But I think there was a line in there and it was the closing line of the article, and you said, um, maybe because in the article you were talking about like the good old days, like I'm in my mid-30s. I got to experience those at the tail end of the 90s, early 2000s. You guys are young, you didn't really get that. And you said, this is my favorite line, you said maybe the good old days aren't behind us but actually right in front of us. And I think that's such a great just mindset to have. It's like it doesn't have to be back in the day. It can be now, and we can be the people to do it, right? And I think you guys are in the perfect position to do that.
That's right. Yeah. Influenced by all of the things back in the day, all of the things that inspired us, right? And inspired the people that we listen to music with and go to shows with. But let's do it now. Let's write our own path. Let's
Yeah,
let's create our story for our generation.
totally. And I think that's the only way anything of any importance if you believe in something, you do it. You believe, that's all there is to it. And you
Right,
guys
right.
are doing it. And that's always just like so incredible to see.
Yeah, and that's what we are. A DIY label, a DIY clothing company. DIY production company. We're just Sunburnt is just this music collective, this art collective, and it's for everybody.
Yeah. So what are the plans for Sunburn? Are you going to keep putting on these DIY shows? Are you going to sign any of the bands that you had? Like,
Yeah. So shows I think will be the biggest focus of it for the start. We're going to take that same thing we did up in Ventura County and we want to bring it to all of our favorite places. So I think the first one we're going to do is going to be in February. It's going to be called No Guest List. And it's going to be the same thing. All of our favorite clothing companies, all of these brands we love from down there, all of our favorite bands that we play with, and just put on a freaking rad night down in San Diego. And the goal is to be able to do that like once a month, maybe once a week someday, and bring that model to San Diego every single weekend, and eventually do it up in Long Beach, do it up in Los Angeles, do it in Orange County, do it in Santa Barbara, and just keep this traveling circus of everything Jake and I love, and just bring it to everybody, make it accessible, make it a thing for everybody in SoCal. So the show is going to be the main rotating event that we do. But we do have our sights set on putting out music pretty soon. My band Strange Case has some stuff we're going to be putting out, perhaps some Jacob's Castle stuff in the future. And then, of course, all our buddy bands, Ethan Salter, Jesse James Pariah, these kids Shuss from Long Beach, some really good music that they're sitting on. And we're like, dude, let's get this out. Let's blow it up. Like the world needs to hear what you guys are creating.
Yeah, totally. And I think the biggest piece to all of this is like, you guys are friends and this is a community. Like, I don't think you could necessarily like put your finger on, oh, it's like this genre or this genre, but it's just like, you're all friends, you're all making music together, you're all having fun together. And that's really what drives kind of that success, and that's what's going to make people come to it and sell it out time after time after time, is because you've created this little hangout spot for people that either want to be your friend or are your friend, you know what I mean? So that's really cool.
It's all done out of love. Jake and I are doing this because it's our favorite thing on the planet to do.
Yep.
And I think all the greatest things as far as art are concerned are done just because you freaking love it. And I think that's going to translate. And I think everyone that goes to the shows and listens to the music are going to feel that and get to feel like a part of that, because it's just straight up what we love to do.
Amen.
And I think that's so great. Again, like that, I think you're hitting on something that is really missing just in the, in the music scene. And I think it's going to be great. Can you give, I know you named a couple like Jesse James, Pariah, and Shuss and Salter. Are there any other bands that our viewers should check out?
Those are the big ones that we're scoping right now that we know are like part of the collective as we speak and are down for it. There's a few more that we're interested in that we would love to work with, I'm sure. And there's a couple more of our friends that just make awesome music. I know Denim is one. Go check out Denim. We just did a couple sessions with him, and that was super fun. Zane's band Strange Case. What are some more that we're not missing here, Zano? There's lots of awesome music that's happening all up and down the coast, but we just got to get them on the shows first.
And I mean, yeah, you're on your way. This is, I think this is the beginning of something really great. And yeah, it's cool to see. It's cool to see. Is there anything else you guys want to like touch on?
We have a podcast coming out soon that we have filmed the first episode of, the Burnt Cast. And a big part of what we're planning on doing with our social media and this podcast and just our online presence is we want it to feel sort of like a collaborative process with the audience, is that we are creating, this DIY label sort of situation, but instead of being like just shadowy behind the scenes figures, we want to experience this whole thing together. So it feels like a big community thing. So that's sort of the goal of the podcast, is we have guests on anybody that we've met through our journeys in this industry, and we try to pick their brain and ask them how they did it. People like, Kevin Zinger and Joe Escalante, and we should try to get Brett Gurwitz on there. I'm sure he'd be down, man. I mean, that's amazing roadmap for a guy who basically did the same thing and some very similar to what we're trying to do. And I think that all the kids who come out to these shows aren't just music enjoyers, but they're people who genuinely want to do that for themselves. I think our guiding flag is the old ancient adage of Mike Watt from the Minutemen. After every show, he'd always yell out to the audience, "Start your own band, start your own band." So maybe we could say, "Start your own record label." But our own music, it's this fun, awesome thing. So yeah, check out the Burnt Cast when it drops. We're still in the editing process, and please check out our social media as well and follow us on this journey of trying to create this DIY thing with our friends and anybody else who wants to be a part of it.
When is the launch date for the podcast?
No hard launch date yet. But we're thinking that we're going to be announcing this week just the a hard launch. It's kind of in soft launch mode right now, but we'll do the hard launch of Sunburnt itself as an entity. Then announcing an upcoming show, which we're looking towards the end of January, I think, for our next locally promoted show, doing it in San Diego. And then after announcing that, probably announcing the podcast. Does it sound about normal timeline, Zana?
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Great. So much good stuff coming from you guys. And like, yeah, again, just love to see it. Love to see it. I think it's just exciting in a lot of ways seeing you guys do. Obviously, you do the Sublime stuff, and that's, a big role that you've had to fill, and it takes up a lot of your time, both of you, I'm sure. But using that as like a springboard to do your thing, the thing that makes you guys you.
Exactly. Using it as a springboard to help boost up all the other small bands in our scene, man. I sort of like what Sublime was all about back in the day anyways. So it just made the most sense.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it's awesome. We're pretty much done unless there's anything else you guys want to add.
There's
Go ahead. What?
add that.
On that note, Jake, I think we should maybe start teasing the Sunburnt official after parties.
Yes. Yeah. If you come out to a Sublime show or a Jacob's Castle show, odds are that after that we're gonna pull up our van to a location in the parking lot and hop up on the roof and play secret Renegade shows where we do Q&A and show merch drops and talk about what's happening for the future and connect with all the real ones, man. The Sunburn official after parties are our bread and butter.
Yeah, it started actually on this last tour with Little Stranger, and we were at a venue in, I think, Lexington, Kentucky, and for some reason, Jacob's Castle, we weren't allowed to sell any merch. And we're like, fuck, all right, well, screw this. And we were on the microphone, and we're like, we're gonna pull our van out front, and after Little Stranger ends, come swarm the parking lot. We'll play a bunch of songs for you guys and sell merch and hang out. And so after that show ended, Jacob and I pulled a couple acoustic guitars out. We sat on top of his van, and we got the whole parking lot filled with people, and we were just jamming a bunch of songs and having a great time, spreading the good word of Sunburn and what we were planning on doing. And we're like, we're not leaving until we sell enough merch to make it to the next city. And then we're like, shoot, we should do this at every show. This is fun. And people really got a kick out of it. Everyone got to meet Jake and, do some autographs and photos, and just like, it was a really cool vibe. So then we did it the next night in Nashville. And then we're like, shoot, well, maybe we could just throw like after parties. We're all at these Sublime shows, Jake's playing, I'm guitar tech, and we're all hanging out. It's like, well, that would be a great time to like rent out a club in whatever city we're playing in and throw Shuss and Salter and Strange Case and Jacob's Castle, put all these bands on, and have some of the Sublime dudes come out, and everyone just hangs and like enjoys more music. The show don't have to end after the festival's over, right? We can do our own little thing. So I think that's something to keep an eye out for, and we're going to try to bring that after party, Sunburn official after party, to every city that Sublime's playing in, and just have all our favorite bands come out and jam there and get to hang out and meet the community.
Come through and be a part. I appreciate you.
Yeah, amazing. That sounds so fun. Also, Little Stranger, are they not like the funniest, best people ever? Like, I worked with them at Everwild, and that was the first time I ever saw them live, and they literally blew my mind. I was like, this is incredible. This is one of the best live shows I've ever seen. You are hilarious and funny and talented. And yeah, I just was like, they kind of like, I was so surprised. It was great.
Oh, they're the best. We saw them naked more than 5 times.
More than 5 times. They were the best band to tour with. They're like our favorite tour. They're just like the nicest dudes. They're like instantly our older brothers, and you know, the first night after we played, usually the headliner band's doing their own thing and stuff, you know, just unwinding. And they came out to a bar with us and like sat down and like wanted to get to know us. And like we were just instantly all best friends. It was so rad. And we had so much fun that tour, man. It really just felt like we were out there creating memories that are going to last a lifetime. We weren't just like out there to grind and play music, but it was just like such an enjoying time and like enjoyable time. And yeah, Little Stranger is just like they're such a great band and such a great crew. You know, it was so rad.